Finding the facing. The facing is important because it dictates which one of the 24 directions the chi will take inside a space. However, finding the facing is not always an easy task. The guideline is that the side with the most activity is the facing. This usually comes from the street. So in this case, it is easy to find the facing, as the door faces the street. But what if the door is not in the front? Now we must decide if the door or the road is the more active area. However, in this style of a house, in a suburban residential area, most likely the road will be busier than the side. But what if there are two roads? Now what is the facing? Well, in such cases we will have to take into consideration the following decisions. The amount of light coming into the space. How active is the front door? How active is the pathway coming into the home? We have to use our valid reasoning to determine the facing. There are no simple rules to follow. Generally, we want the front of the property to be active, bright, and have lots of movement, and the rear or the sitting to be dark and shady, inactive and stationary. With apartment buildings, we must consider both the building itself and the individual units. We do this using the same principles of locating the most yang directions as we did for houses. For an apartment building itself, we consider the road, the door, and the building design. Usually, all three will give you the facing without doubt, but when they don't, you must use sound reasoning. For example, for the individual units, we will have to consider their respective facings. These facings are even more important than the facing of the building as a whole. Facing A and B units are the same. They face this way. D and E will face the opposite directions, and then the middle C and F are facing again a different direction. With an apartment building, we are looking for the same things. We look for the door, the windows, and the pathway or roadways for the most yang areas. If we look at this floor plan, we see big windows on the north and west side. But we still cannot determine the facing of this apartment. We will have to see what is outside these windows. If there is a road running east and west on the north side and a neighboring building on the west side, then this building faces north. If there is a road running north and south on the west side, while the north windows face a parking lot, then we consider the unit as facing west. If there are roads both on the north and west sides, then we'd have to take into consideration the facing of the entire building. If it faces north, then the unit will face north. If it faces west, then the unit will face west. There are no rigid rules to follow. Experience and logical reasoning will provide us with the answer. Of course, we must then confirm our facing by comparing the chi chart with our history of the location.